Of Mr. Stolger, he has canvassed many of the issues that I would have otherwise embarked upon.
Why don't we start and see how we go?
Thank you.
You can take that.
Ms. Gillard, Bob.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes.
Bob Galbally is my name, and I represent Ralph Blewett. You have had the opportunity of reading the transcript of Mr. Blewett's evidence.
Yes, I have.
Given back in May.
Yes, I have.
And I think I heard you say recently that you also have read the transcript of the evidence given by Mr. Wilson.
Yes, I have. I don't have it in front of me, but I have read it.
Yeah. Do you understand that their evidence is essentially at odds with each other?
Yes, I understand that.
But your evidence might be relevant to deciding where the facts lie and who should be believed.
Well, I'm not sure that using Ms. Gillard as a witness of credit is someone else's credit is really an appropriate use of the process we're engaged on. But maybe I should not interrupt and let Mr. Cleland interrupt.
Thank you, Commissioner.
If he wishes to.
Happy with that. I wanted to ask you some questions about your history, and I'm not going to duplicate the evidence that you've already given, but in the 1980s, you were firstly a law student, and then you became admitted to practice.
Yes, that's correct.
You joined Slater and Gordon in 1988?
I think it was 1987.
87?
Yeah, we have been through all this.
Yeah. Prior to you joining Slater and Gordon, had you been involved in formulating objects or purposes of other unincorporated associations?
This was the subject of questioning by Mr. Stolger this morning, Commissioner.
I think that is true.
Well, briefly,
well, have you got a specific question?
I have.
Right.
Okay. You mentioned this morning the Socialist Forum.
Yes, I did, and it's mentioned in the documents.
Yeah, did you do work in relation to that in the mid-1980s?
So I'm just thinking about when the time would have been. Yes, it would have been the mid-1980s, that's correct.
And were you on the Committee of Management?
Yes, I was.
And did the Committee of Management decide to incorporate?
Yes, there was a decision to, it's going back a long time, but
yeah.
Socialist Forum decided to incorporate. I assisted.
Okay, you don't have to go through the history of it. But,
No. I assisted with that work, as did Mr. Lang.
Yeah, and you wrote a small paper explaining the benefits of incorporation.
I didn't recall that. I understand it's floating around the internet somewhere now.
Okay. We can probably cut this short. You, apart from working on the objects of the Socialist Forum, did you have other experience in relation to rules of unincorporated associations?
Incorporated or unincorporated?
Unincorporated.
I'd had experience drafting rules. Mr. Lang and I, predominantly Mr. Lang, worked on the rules for Emily's List, Labor Women's Organisation. One of the tasks I undertook when I first came to Slater and Gordon and still was doing commercial work was drafting rules for, actually it was a insurance, a company.
All right.
So I'd had experience drafting rules.
Yes. So when it came to 1991, and Mr. Wilson asked you to assist in having the Workplace Reform Association registered, you had experience in that area.
As I indicated in response to Mr. Stolger's questions, I'd been involved in 2 incorporations as discussed, so that's the experience.
And you knew the difference between an unincorporated association and, for example, an election fund?
Commissioner?
Yes, that has been a...
Condition 1.
Yes, I'll support that objection.
Right, I'll move on. Ms. Gillard, you met Mr. Wilson in 1991.
Yes, I did.
He, to your knowledge, had recently been elected as Secretary of the Western Australian branch?
Not at the time that I met Mr Wilson, no. He was not Secretary of the Western Australian branch at that time.
All right. Did he tell you that he had formed an election fund called the I'll get this right, the New Leadership Fund or New Leadership Group?
No, he did not.
Okay. You've never heard that description?
No, I haven't heard that description.
Was it in August of 1991 that you commenced doing some legal work for the Australian Workers' Union?
It was in 1991, yes. I met Mr Wilson, I think, in April, and later in 1991 started performing some legal work.
Do you recall writing a letter in August of 1991 to the Western Australian branch about their rules? 4-page letter, is that familiar to you?
Oh, I don't recall it, no.
Okay, that hasn't been brought to your attention?
No, it has not.
Okay. When you met him, after you met him, he became the Secretary of the Western Australian branch?
Yes, at a later point, that's right.
Yes. And there was a possibility, wasn't there, that at some stage in the future he could be appointed General Secretary of the Australian Workers' Union?
No. By the time I met Mr Wilson, he had run unsuccessfully for the position of either National President or National Secretary. He'd run on a ticket with Mr Ludwig, and one of them had succeeded and one of them had failed.
All right. When he asked you to give you, sought your assistance to register the association, the Workplace Reform Association, you knew there'd been a failed attempt to do that?
I object to that question. The witness has repeatedly said that both Mr Wilson and Mr Blewett were giving her instructions. He's now put twice that only Mr Wilson was giving the instructions. My submission is it's important to get these things right.
What you say is correct, but he is entitled to seek to get the witness to change her evidence. May not be easy, but he's entitled to try.
Commission, please.
The first instructions you received to attempt to register the Workplace Reform Association was given to you by whom?
I've received, as I gave evidence earlier today, I received instructions from Mr Wilson and Mr Blewett.
Both together?
As I gave evidence earlier today, I don't precisely recall each conversation, but I do have a general recollection. Mr Blewett and Mr Wilson gave me instructions to assist with the incorporation.
Do you agree that the rules and the application presuppose that there is a loose group of people already in existence as an association?
Well, as I gave evidence earlier today, there was a group of people who had come together to take over the, by way of appointment, the former Secretary of the Western Australian branch had resigned. Mr Wilson had filled his spot and had a team that had come in with him, and that they were a combination, a team.
Well, you were acting as a lawyer in this task.
Yes.
Did you ask who the 5 members were?
No, I've given that evidence earlier today. I would have advised them about the minimum membership requirements.
Mr Galbally, we are retracing almost word for word evidence given this morning. Again, you may like to try and get the witness to change your evidence, but it is trespassing on well-trodden ground.
Ms Gillard, you did not open a file in relation to this matter?
Been there too.
Is it so that the task of the legal work you undertook in relation to this Workplace Reform Association took something like 3 or 4 months?
Well, the timing is in the documents, but in terms of the personal labours by me, I was asked a question about that by Mr Stolger and said it was in the order of 3, 4, 5 hours work.
Were you asked to undertake this task in early 1991, around about January or February?
I've given my best recollection as to the timing already.
All right. Now, you were a Victorian lawyer.
Yes.
And you were asked to do work in Western Australia?
But work under Western Australian law.
Yes. Did you study the Western Australian legislation?
Mr. Galbally, I really must ask you to concentrate on the matter in hand. Now, no doubt this witness is very well capable of looking after herself, but she's been in the box a long time. It's a very tiring place to be. We have Mr. Cleland yet to extract evidence from his own client if he wants to. Dr. Hanscom may well wish to ask some questions. The Commission has a very full day tomorrow. No doubt the witness has a very full day tomorrow. It's simply not possible for us to either sit very late tonight or start early tomorrow. We've got to concentrate on new material or a new insight on old material.
Thank you. Commissioner? At the time you undertook the preparation of the power of attorney, had you had any expertise in the preparation of a power of attorney?
At Slater and Gordon at this time, obviously life would be different now, but at Slater and Gordon at this time there were precedent folders and you would dictate the variables. So there would be a power of attorney precedent, variable one would be the name, you dictate that and the tape would be taken to word processing and the document generated.
And do you recall who asked you to prepare this power of attorney? As
I've referred to in the 1995 interview, it arose out of discussions about Mr. Blewett wanting to buy an investment property, the decision narrowing down to bidding on the Kerr Street property and Mr. Blewett not being personally able to be there to do that bidding.
You were opened a file within days, did you not, of the auction at Kerr Street?
A conveyancing file?
Yes.
No, I did not.
You instructed someone else to do that?
I'd never operated a conveyancing file. I would have referred Mr. Blewett as a client to the conveyancing section of Slater and Gordon, and they would have opened the file.
It wasn't your responsibility to obtain instructions from Mr. Blewett about settlement periods?
Most certainly
where the
not.
funds came from, etc.?
Most certainly not.
In 1995, when you were asked questions by Mr. Shaw and Mr. Gordon, they asked you the questions, and I'm not going to go over them, about receipts and invoices and so forth. It's later that year, is it not, around November, December, that this issue was raised in State Parliament?
It was later in the year. I couldn't give you a precise date, but the Hansard obviously can be recovered.
Did you think it prudent at that point in time to cobble together all of the paperwork you had in order to meet any allegations that were made about this in the future?
We renew the objection or persist with it. Commissioner, we didn't object on the power of attorney. We understand there's a difference between Mr. Blewett and Ms. Gillard's evidence, but on this point in our submission, this is not an issue between Mr. Blewett and Ms. Gillard.
Just give me a moment. I think there's some force in that objection.
I think there is, Your Honour. Commissioner? Yes. Ms. Gillard, I suggest to you that your association with Mr. Wilson in the early 1990s has led to your judgment being clouded about matters of ethics and running files.
It's completely untrue.
Question.
Well, it's very vague. Have you answered that question, Ms. Gillard?
I've just said it's completely untrue.
Yes.
They're the questions I have for this witness.
Very well. Dr. Hanscom?
I have no questions.
Mr. Cole?
Nothing, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Stoljar?
I have nothing further.